surviving 10 years of living with cancer. And I invite all of those people in that landmark to join me in ringing the bell. You have to get up. You have two choices. You can lie down and give up, or you get up. And if you get up, we're going to fight. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Jack Ostroff's Hope Podcast. I've got two new guests here. One is this hairy guy right over here. This is Indy. And Indy is a tiny golden doodle. And since we've run out of treats, he wants out of town. So he is another member of our family. And he's not quite ready for the podcast business, but for some reason he loves us, and we feel the same way about Indy. And I would recommend a dog for just about everybody. Anybody who's going through an illness, quite frankly, if you could handle their needs, which is basically taking them for walks or arranging for, a dog walker. These guys are wonderful. I get greeted every morning. Somebody gets so excited to see me. He's at the door every morning. When I arrive from any excursion, he's at the door greeting me. Very excited. He's terrific. He's just a whole lot of fun and a lot of love.
Yeah, so we'll let him escape.
Yeah, this is about Indy's attention span and tolerance in terms of holding him. So the other person to introduce, another member of the family, this is my son, Jared, number one son. And Jared's been a savior. But before we get started, we'll go through our disclaimer, and just to put things into perspective, the content shared on the podcast reflects my personal journey and experience as a cancer patient. I'm not a medical professional, and nothing discussed in this podcast should be considered medical advice. Always consult with your own doctor or qualified healthcare provider for guidance related to your health, diagnosis, or treatment options. Every person's medical situation is unique, and professional advice should be tailored to your individual needs. So here we are now in 2023, and things seem to be rolling along pretty well. Been pretty stable. I finished with my cabozantinib, and that was probably in September, and then we're starting to look at a new medication. The next medication after cabozantinib is levantinib. And so somewhere around September, October, I started on a dosage, but something happened in December. So I was on this for about 2 months when I came downstairs one evening and said, I've got some discomfort in my chest. It's on my right side, and it's not going away. So the question is, am I having a heart attack? And I didn't think so, but by the same token, the pain didn't subside. It kept increasing. So I knew this was serious, and we called 911. The ambulance arrives, and they say, well, you don't have a heart attack. Your heart is fine. And do you still want to go to the hospital? I said, well, yes, because the pain is not subsiding. And I got into the ambulance, and on the way there, I passed out. That's the last I remember. So the story from there really belongs to Jared, because he basically took over in terms of the interface between my needs and the hospital. And I got to tell you, if you're looking for an advocate, there's no one better than Jared. And this was quite surprising to me how involved he got, how he threw himself into the situation, went up a large learning curve, and basically saved my life. And I'm eternally grateful, very proud of you for doing that. Sometimes you don't even recognize the skills that your own kids have, but he was amazing. And so, Jared, why don't you tell the story? Here I am unconscious at North York General, and they've told you I have a gallbladder infection. Sepsis.
Well, I think it took a little bit of time for them to figure that out, because first, when you were brought into the hospital, they always treat the immediate problems. So you're given some pain meds, you're given some stuff to help with relief. And then, like you said, that kind of helped you doze off for 5 days. And that's where myself, my sister Carly, and my mom all became like Team Jack. So they told us, okay, they thought they kind of understood what was going on, and that he would most likely need to be admitted into the hospital. And, it's a discussion with the family, because if he's not there to advocate for himself, we become the advocates. So I think it's really important that you become informed, you listen to what the doctors have to say, you try to learn the situation as best as you can so that you can be of some service. So we said, you know what, this does look more serious, so let's admit him into the hospital so we know he's in the right place. And that turned out to be a really good call because, like you said, this gallbladder infection that started out as, problem number one soon ballooned into what they call sepsis, which means that there's an infection in your body and it's starting to get into the bloodstream and starting to move around. And is it going to start going into other areas like the heart or some other internal organs? So this was at North York General Hospital. The team there is absolutely and utterly amazing. So once the decision was made that this was very serious, we need to treat this right away, they moved you down to the ICU where we were given 24/7 care. Like I said, the doctors and nurses are always there to answer your questions. So the more you can learn, the more you can ask, and the more information you can kind of glean from it, which I think is important because, as you'll find out later in this episode or next, this wasn't necessarily the first time or the last time that we had to deal with this. So when it kind of came back around, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I know what to do because I paid good attention. I asked my questions. So I think they did an incredible job of bringing you back to health. And then you had about a 3-month recovery period.
Right. So the original gallbladder infection took place in 2018.
Right.
And quite frankly, since I was unconscious for the better part of 4 months, I never knew about it. Had I known about it, I probably would have asked some questions about removing it. But the doctors didn't raise that. And subsequently, after I recovered, I was given a warning. It said, you're not going to survive another gallbladder infection. Your gallbladder has to come out. So I called my oncologist and explained that. And she said, you shouldn't remove the gallbladder. It's going to be too risky for you. And so that represented a real dilemma. I can't go through another case of sepsis. And yet at the same time, the gallbladder is filled with stones, and it's only a matter of time before it repeats itself. So I discussed that with the surgeon at North York General, and they advised me of this new technique. It was only done at TGH. There's a doctor by the name of Dr. Aaron Shlomovitz who specializes in actually removing the stones within the gallbladder. So revolutionary in the field. And he was the creator of this procedure. Prior to that, no one really understood that could work. And the effectiveness of the procedure was 97% after the procedure for 2 years, no issues, and unlikely that any stones would return. So we were able to get a date slated for May 2024, and I kept trying to move it up somewhere between February and May. Certainly, we were pressing constantly. Now, the problem was I was pressing. I really should have been engaging Jared because Jared is rather amazing, and I didn't understand that until it was back when I was in North York General as I was recovering. I'm in a quad with 3 other people, and then I see somebody, delivering coffee to all the nurses on the floor. Then I see somebody talking to all the doctors, and there's my son. He's interfacing with everybody. Everybody knows his name, and everybody talks to him. Nobody talks to me. They're all talking to Jared. So he had clearly worked the system well to get himself known, to have an interface with them. And further, he called up his friends. There were some that were doctors, and my brother-in-law is ENT surgeon, so he would be speaking to him as well, and all on my behalf. So, the challenge for me was to get past, this period between February of 24 to I think it was the first week of May 2024. So you're looking at March and April. It didn't sound like that was that far off.
Because I think they also wanted you to recover more. It's like a tricky balancing system. It's like, okay, we want to do this, but when is the right time to do it? How long can you wait? And of course, when can you get an appointment? So that's why I think it was always important that we tried to get to know the doctors and nurses on a personal basis, just so they can, put a face to a name, and they know that these loved ones around him that are pulling for him and pushing for him. And it's like the name of the podcast, hold on to positive energy, hope. And that's something that, we knew we couldn't control what was going on in his body. We couldn't control if the meds would work, but we could control our attitude. I've always said, no matter what he was going through, whether conscious or not, we would play songs on a speaker, his favorite songs, hoping that we could send a message of hope to him, and maybe he'd hear it and tell his body to fight. So it's always, a crazy situation, and things start to snowball very fast, especially when you're talking about things like sepsis. And you just want to be there to support, do what you can. And, these doctors and nurses are working 24/7 with so many different patients that it's like anything you can do to help. And if it's as simple as making sure they've got some nice hot coffee for the tiny breaks they're allowed to take before they go straight back to work. And, they're amazing people, and we just want to show our gratitude. And, kindness goes a long way.
I think the key for me is to understand that there's an option between removing the gallbladder, and for some people that might be the best option. But in my situation, removal of gallbladder wasn't really an option. So when I went back to Northrop General and said I can't do the surgery, the surgeon advised me of the procedures being done by Dr. Aaron Shlomovitz. I would highly encourage those of you who need an option to deal with your gallbladder, as opposed to removal, to consult with your physician, and where applicable, get a referral to Dr. Aaron Shlomovitz. He is a world innovator. There's one other hospital that out in British Columbia that is following the same protocol, so it's expanded. From what I understand, it was expanding and possibly expanding into the States. So congratulations to Dr. Aaron Shlomovitz for being an innovator. I wish I could tell you that I could wait for 2024, but that surgical delay was very made for more anxiety. How long would I have to wait? And the funny thing is, I would call constantly to see if I get an update, in terms or get my appointment moved up. Jared, on the other hand, if I had asked him to do that, I'm pretty sure he would have been successful. And remarkable that when I would call in, they say, "Oh, Mr. Ostrupper, we've already spoken to your son." Oh God, I can't get through, but he can get through. So he knew Dr. Shlomovitz well and met him well before I ever did. And thankfully, that was a procedure that ended up saving my life. But there's a little more drama before we get there. So starting off 2024 was quite the challenge. 3 more months in the hospital and recovery, and then being in a stressful situation of waiting, which is hard on everybody, entire family, hard on all of you whenever you've had to wait for appointments or scan results or whatever it may be. Try and live in the moment, try to be proactive, try to keep moving.
And I always found with that kind of stuff, you don't want to overthink things. And it's easy if you are left to your own devices to kind of let your mind run and stuff. So I would find, in these moments, we'd spend 15 hours at Northrop General Hospital. But then, when I get home, I get straight into bed. I'd put on one of my favorite TV shows, even if I wasn't feeling like watching it. And you just kind of put it on, even just have it in the background. And your brain will latch onto that noise. So as much as you want to kind of overanalyze and overthink, I think a distraction, some music, a TV show you like, a movie, something you can do with your hands, give it the thought it needs, but then try to give yourself a break.
So, firstly, thank you for listening. Next episode gets to be kind of crazy, so you want to stay tuned for that. Again, we are looking to raise money for cancer research, for kidney cancer research and other research, and asking you to donate. We have links to Princess Margaret Cancer Foundation. We have links to Kidney Cancer Foundation as well, Kidney Cancer Canada, both great organizations, really integral to my recovery, and ask you to donate as best you can. Actually, funny story, I got a call from my aunt the other day, and she says, I know about your podcast. She says, I want to give you money. I said, well, I can't take your money. I'm not taking anybody's money. We need to set up the links and get organized. And when I do that, then you can click on a link and go through. Now, I do understand she doesn't have the computer skills, so I will have to help her. But I have my first donation, which is very kind, and she's absolutely wonderful. She's lovely. So,
and we're making it nice and easy. So if you're watching, clips of this podcast on YouTube or maybe Instagram, we're going to have the donation link right under the video. It may take you to a fundraising page set up in my dad's name. All proceeds will be donated to cancer research and Kidney Cancer Canada. So we're hoping to do some good with this. And if it's within your means and you'd love to help, that would mean the world to us. And I think we want to make sure other people don't have to go through the same experiences. So
hopefully they can learn some things from my experience. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for podcast number 8. The title is Gallbladder Sepsis Returns Again. Rather ominous, pretty scary stuff. Stay tuned, or wait, to our next podcast. It's one of the crazier ones, for sure. Thank you so much.